So we're apparently not quite linking against it. So what I want to do right now is I want to get CMake to make me a verbose makefile. Make verbose makefile on. I believe it's on. So that we can see exactly what it's doing here. So it's invoking the Emscripten stuff here. With our preload files and a lot of our object files. And then with external YAML CPP, libyaml cpp.a, which is what I was hoping to see. So maybe we're missing something, maybe we're not. So this, where is it? Up in our build, external, we are getting an A file and the so this is always sort of the pain when including external projects, that stuff will not automatically work every time. So we're going to have a look here. So the YAML CPP includes the YAML sources, sets of compile flags, some properties, and then depending on our target, we don't really care a lot about that. Export some stuff. We get these include directories here. For sources. Various other fun stuff. The library sources consist of sources, public headers, private headers. And so we have these sources, which is this function up here, which does weird stuff, and I don't really think I care about that. So, time to look over here. Emscripten. Archive. Using libraries. There's a couple of built-in. Or it's dynamic link archive files. Emscripten supports the archive files, which are bundles of object files. An interesting question now that if we run with a verbose makefile, is what are we actually compiling the external library with, or the YAML library with? Because I'm not getting that information right now. Because if it's not using the Emscripten, which I suspect it might not be, then we are going to have a bad time. So let's just quickly take a look at this. So I want to do that and then run it. So I still need to go with cleaning the project. So this is doing normal C++ compiler, so it's not generating Emscripten compatible stuff. So we need to change the C compiler, which is probably going to be fun. My guess is that what we want to do is we want to move this stuff down to about here. It is not a full path and was not found in the path, because we're now relative to another directory than the one that I currently am. CMake PVD. So you want CMake current source tier. Okay. So our archive, or all of these are based on CMake binary dir / this. Now it's starting to find the stuff. Now this is the point where I start to wonder, did CMake just go into an infinite loop? So we'll just quickly do that and see what happens. That at least completes. And then with that, yeah, with that we get a nice infinite config, or infinite. So yeah, that's not exactly what we're looking for. Generally, I try to avoid infinite loops. So CMake reset cache and reload project. Ooh. So yeah, right now we're not getting YAML in. Because of this nice infinite loop we get here. Loading CMake project. Okay, so the internet says absolute paths are the way to go. So we're going to try that. At some point, I should probably get Emscripten on my path. Yeah, no, that did not help. So far, I prefer this one. Now, let's see what happens. So CMake compile and CXX before the first project statement. We can do that. So these three before the project statement. Yeah, that seems to work a lot better. Interesting. Let's see if we can compile. Let's see if CMake or CLine wakes up again because it was taking another break. So it looks like we're using old C++ standards. We're going to move this up as well. Apparently I did something really weird there, and CLine's taking another break. So CLine and I don't seem to be friends today. So C++ 17 is a little bit too new for the Camel project. Let's try 17 for us and 14 for them. Private constructor again, 11. Nope. 03. At least I believe it's 03 for the previous C++ standard. Haven't used that since like 03. Nope. So it looks like it's going for at least C++ 11. Would be my guess. Now, an interesting question is, do I also need to have this before the project statement? Try recompiling. Calling a private constructor of class standard unique pointer. Okay, what are they doing? Oh, declared private here. So, quick suspicion is that it is going is a C++ 11 extension. It's not picking up the newer version of C++. Okay, can it compile just our code and not the YAML library? Nope, it doesn't know const expression. It's definitely not going for a newer C++ version right now. What is CMake saying? It's not really saying much. I would like to reset the cache and reload the CMake project. So a quick suspicion is that now that it knows sort of the real compiler, because it's set before the project definition, it's not picking up what compiler it is. It thought it was GCC before. In fact, it's a Clang variation. But because of that, it probably doesn't know how to set the C++ standard, which is slightly annoying. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go for saying in addition to that, we're going to go with saying it's that, but then we're also going to go and standard is C++ 1. That would be my guess. I don't think it understands 1.7 yet. So that at least compiles our except for the linking error. So let's add the YAML library again. Rebuild all of that. So now it looks like we're at least a couple of link errors, no such file or directory. So it seems like it's missing the archiver, because these look like archive commands, but that should be CMake R. So yeah, that's CMake R. What else do we have? Because it also has ranlib. But again, this command looks very much like an archive command. It looks like that's what's going wrong. And it looks like the archive command here is just empty. So the question is, why is it empty? So again, time to go for the internet for help. Are empty. File path archive. Hey Reagan, nice of you to tune in. So apparently might help to cache that. At this point, I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. You know, copying stuff from the internet, hoping it works. Same thing as before. But since we're going with this, we might want to rebuild the CMake cache. So that should rebuild the CMake cache. There we go. Try and see if that lets us build. Well, built the target long shot. I don't know what it's waiting for right now. And I'm seeing linking C++ static library, so that's a good thing. So we are going to set the verbose make file off again. I'm just gonna, yeah, it went for a run test thing as well, which I don't really care for. So that's because we're just including everything from the project. There might be a better way that I don't know about in CMake. But let's just clean and rebuild just to make sure that everything works. So doing all of the YAML projects, makes the library, and links us. So if everything worked, we should be able to run our project here. And it's kind of working. So we're getting exception catching is disabled. This exception cannot be caught. Compile with S, disable exception catching 0, or disable exception catching 2 to catch. So something is catching in throwing an exception, and we're not picking it up. So I think we're gonna add this. So that hopefully we can see what's going on. So we just added that to the C++ flags, and we're gonna try and recompile. So it's probably something with the file not existing, would be my random guess here. So with that done, we're gonna try and rerun. So we're getting an exception caught, but we're catching an exception that's probably just a pointer. So that's a lot of fun. Let's see what it's also suggested doing too. So we'll try and see what that does. So we've set disable exception catching to 2. Try that. Otherwise, we're probably going to have to install an exception handler at the outer layer just so that we get the exception and can print it. So now we've built our target long shot. We should be able to rerun. So with 2, no difference. Oh well, I'm going for the approach that this is because the file doesn't exist. So what we want to do is we want to create a folder here called materials, and I've forgotten S here, so we're just gonna rename materials, and gonna validate over here. Yep, we're doing materials. So what we want to do here is we want to have a file called stone.yaml, and we'll take a look at that later. So that should be our YAML file. I didn't want to hit that. I wanted to hit the build button here, and it's going to rebuild everything. And if we refresh now, we get no exception. So it's just that the file didn't exist. So now, since we're going to be doing a lot of editing in text files, I'd kind of like to get these added as dependencies so that CMake knows to rebuild our project whenever we mess around in the assets folder. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to do some dependency adding. So 2 things we want to do is CMake has, as far as I remember, something called glob recursive, file glob recursive, which says file glob recursive variable and a relative path, and then whether or not it should follow symlinks and other stuff like that. So what we can do is we can say So here we sort of have a list of source files. So we can say file, glob, recurse, into asset, files. I would like to start in a relative to assets. I would like to take everything there. And then I would like to add dependencies. No, not definitions. Dependencies. We're just going to do a quick search here. Add dependencies. Go. Because that just says target and a build dependency. So Longshot depends on the asset files. And my ability to hit the keys. Add dependencies call with the well, that's an interesting dependency it got there. I'm guessing we're not really getting the recursive thing here. So glob recurse will generate a list. Okay, glob will generate a list of all files that match globbing expressions and store it in the variable. If relative flag is specified for an expression, the results will be returned as a relative path to the given path. We do not recommend using glob to collect a list of source files from your source tree. If no CMake list changes when a source is added or removed, then the generated build system cannot know when to ask CMake to regenerate it. Yeah, and that's sort of one of the issues and one of the reasons why we want to. This is probably going to become an explicit list. Well, we could just make it an explicit list now, rather than mess about with that and just get it over with. So, asset files includes assets, materials, stone.yaml, at least. So hopefully that works. I'm not really happy that the dependency target does not exist, but that's probably because it depends on a target, not on the actual file. Well, Reagan, then you have one job only, and that is to actually hit that follow button. Yeah, I can see that, but I need the browser right now. So we're not going for add dependencies apparently, because yeah, that adds other top level targets, which is not what we're needing. What we need to say is that this file, see object depends option in set source file properties and to add file level dependencies to object files. Not quite what we're looking for either. Let's have a look. Maybe the trick is actually to include it as a source file. Might actually be the trick. So add executable. So what we're going to do is we are going to try, instead of adding it as actual dependencies, which is not what we want them as source files, and ideally it doesn't know what to do with them, so it should just go through with it. So if I now go into stone.yaml and just change one character here and say build, It doesn't really look like it's picking that up in any way. Nope. Oh, that's slightly annoying. So that's not our goal. So what else do we have? So I guess what I could do is, I don't know. What we actually need to do is separate out so that the assets get created by a separate asset sort of target, and then just depend on that. But that is a whole other can of worms that I am not ready to get into right now. Yeah, we're gonna live with this at first, apparently. I'm gonna work on getting that to work, finding out how to do it until next time.